This is the weekly business news in English on TV3. I am Nugzaru Khadze. Good morning. For the next year, the Defense Ministry will receive only 625 million lari. According to the projected state budget of 2015, financing of the Defense Ministry will decrease by 35 million lari. The Minister of Finance of the country has made a comment on the subject.
Defense Ministry will not finance the enterprise Delta any longer. Delta was transferred to the Ministry of Economy, which will provide its financing. Besides, we are working with the Ministry of Defense with the aim of offering an optimal budget to them.
Financing of Defense Ministry envisaged by the project of state budget contradicts the document of strategic survey. According to the document, by estimation of Defense and Finance Ministries, next year the budget of the Ministry of Defense should increase from 660 to 760 million lari. How could this be possible?
Of course, we are aware that all spheres are of high priority. There are no low-priority spheres. However, the defense and security of the country is important for the development of other spheres. Stability and security is mandatory.
By cutting down the defense budget, Georgia may fail to meet the recommendations of NATO, which has never happened till now. The point is that in the new package submitted to Georgia at the Wales summit, NATO recommends to increase the country's defense budget. Bidzina Ivanishvili, Secretary of State of Security Council, hopes that during the hearings at the Parliamentary Committee, the budget will be somewhat increased because the obligation undertaken by Georgia, according to the recommendations stipulated in the package, provides for the increase of the defense budget. Besides, in view of danger facing Europe on the part of Russia, the NATO member and allied countries arrived at the decision to increase their defense budgets. The said countries boosted their defense budgets by 20%. This point was highlighted by the defense ministers of NATO member countries who have visited Georgia.
Georgia has made to operations in Kosovo, Iraq, and Afghanistan. Over more than a decade of fighting together, our two militaries have forged a deep.
Ministry of Defense does not agree with the projected state budget. Negotiations to this end are still going on. The final decision is up to the Parliament. 100 businessmen gathered at the presidential residence to discuss the issues of the prospects of business development in Georgia. President Margvelashvili talked about the tendencies of Georgian business development and touched upon the opportunities that are offered by the agreement on association with Euro Union concluded between European Union and Georgia. The president also dwelt upon the energy and railway projects, which were outlined during the leadership of the previous president.
Let me talk about general advantages or disadvantages of our economy as I see it and of the future perspectives that we have. Well, let me start from the most important that I think that happened this year is that Georgia signed the DCFTA agreement, the association agreement with European Union, which is a very important milestone on Georgia's European development, but is also an important asset for Georgia's economic development. Through signing this agreement, an impressive market, European market, which overall is the biggest market in the world, has been open to Georgia, has been open to investors that are doing their business in Georgia. The achievement is important in several contexts. First of all, we believe that it will improve the quality of products that are developed in our country. It will further our our economy as well as investments in our economy. In this respect, there are several challenges that we have to overcome. First of all, it is sort of binding or going deeper into European standards and European formats of doing business. And I think that those challenges will be overcome eventually, because Georgian business is, I believe, flexible to adopt those new standards and open itself to European markets. It is very important that at the same time we are creating opportunities for new businesses in Georgia, because I think that people all around the world will be interested in investing in a country that has a free access to European markets.
The meeting of the Georgian president with the businessman was initiated by the American Chamber of Trade. The meeting was attended by Richard Norland, the United States ambassador to Georgia, and representatives of the American Chamber of Trade. In their opinion, such format of communication between the businessman and representatives of Georgian authorities is the best way of improving the country's business environment.
The second anniversary of the new government's time in office, we're more focused than ever on encouraging frequent and more dialogue between the public and private sectors.
At the end of the meeting, which lasted for more than 2 hours, the Georgian president answered the questions of the businessman. The Georgian administration undertook the development of stock exchange market by substitution of its management. Georgi Bachiashvili, head of the $6 billion worth co-investment fund, was appointed to the post of the chairman of Supervisory Board of Stock Exchange. Almost the entire composition of the 12-man Supervisory Board was replaced. The new management of Stock Exchange believes that for years, Georgian stock market remained inactive. The new management promises to develop the equity market.
Very limited amount of securities is sold in the market. Volume of our securities at the market is insignificant. Consequently, activity of foreign investors is very limited. The aim of these changes is to revive the stock exchange in Georgia and make it play an important role in the development of Georgia's economy.
Georgia's banking sector owns 54% of stock exchange shares. Management of Galt and Tuggart, the company affiliated to the Bank of Georgia, believe in the change of management. They think that Georgi Bachiashvili was chosen to the position of the chairman of Supervisory Board thanks to his competence.
He is the man who has frequent meetings with foreign investors and deals with portfolio investments. That is to say that he has business with the investors who bring portfolio investments. We have issued 3 bonds. 2 of them were the bonds of M2 and 1 of them was of a leasing company.
Several months ago, members of governmental economic team expressed the idea of developing stock exchange market. Minister of Economy visited Poland to this end. Meanwhile, Minister of Finance voiced the intent of the authorities in this connection.
Stock exchange is a composite part of a private structure. Georgi is very experienced in business. He knows the financial market very well, and I'm sure he will achieve success. Generally speaking, our stock exchange needs to be developed. Unfortunately, today it is in an embryo state, as it was 2 years ago.
The non-banking sector owns 4% of stock market. At this stage, securities of 120 companies are on sale at the market. What results did selling the medicine by prescription bring? 1 month has elapsed since the new reform took effect, and the Minister of Health is satisfied by its aftermath. As of today, 10 drugstores were caught selling medicine without prescription. Some of them declared that the incident of selling unauthorized medicine was caused by misunderstanding. They also say that after the regulation of selling medicine by prescription entered into force, the sale of drugs decreased and their prices zoomed up. Major drugstore networks do not confirm the price growth of medicines, insisting that only small pharmacies have hiked the prices. Meanwhile, the chairman of the Parliamentary Committee for Healthcare does not rule out that the volume of sales in pharmacy networks has actually declined.
Naturally, the sales will go down because the population will use the drugs that they actually need. The volume of medicine used for self-medication will decrease since the customer used to buy more drugs than they really needed.
After introducing the prescription regulation, they discussed the current problems at the meeting of representatives of pharmaceutical companies with the Minister of Health. In the words of David Sergienko, on the expiry of 1 month period after the prescription institution was introduced, the drawbacks have been minimized. A few weeks ago, about 700 medicines were moved to the list of prescription-free group of drugs. They concede to the Ministry of Health that a regrouping of medicines may continue. Meanwhile, customers complain about the discomfort caused by the adoption of the rule of selling drugs by prescription. Prime Minister of Georgia met with Galust Sahakyan, Chairman of National Assembly of Armenia. The negotiating sides discussed the matters of further intensification of relations between the two countries and stirring up of cooperation in specific spheres. Georgian Premier and Armenian Chairman of the National Assembly stated that their respective countries were ready for further promoting trade and economic relations. According to Galus Sahakyan, recent years showed positive development of trade and economic cooperation between the two countries. Chairman of the Armenian National Assembly was also received by the President of Georgia. At the meeting with the President, the parties stressed the importance of intensifying the collaboration between Georgian and Armenian parliamentary groups. In Tbilisi, Department of Immigration opened a high-level center of transitory accommodation of European standards. Together with the Minister of Interior Affairs, Premier Irakli Garibashvili opened the new building. The two-story building is meant for 80 persons who live in Georgia illegally. According to European standards, the center houses a dining room, library, and computer lounge. The center has sports grounds and children's playgrounds. The center has adapted rooms for handicapped persons and people who are prone to self-mutilation. Believe it or not, but the global brand Montclair jackets are made in Georgia. They are produced at the sewing enterprise of Elguja Mamasakhlisi. The sewing workshop, which is located on Guramishvili Street in Tbilisi, is furnished with state-of-the-art machinery and equipment. 20 years ago, he started his business with one sewing machine. Today, thanks to the diligent work of many years, Elguja Mamasakhlisi owns the sewing enterprise equipped with the newest machines.
We have a complete cycle connected with the production of clothes. We have a sewing factory. We produce fabrics and we make embroidery. Naturally, we employ state-of-the-art technologies.
Made in Georgia. Read the labels on Montclair jackets. The items of the global brand of that is produced by the Georgian company El Selema. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing the name correctly. they receive swan's down from Italy. Then they cut out a pattern of the jacket. When the fabric is filled with the swan's down, the tailor sews the jacket. The product passes the quality control, first under the supervision of the employees of the enterprise and then under the direction of Montclair representatives. After that, the final product is packed. Apart from sewing, the director of the company has been working on the reviving of older style of Georgian embroidery.
Thanks to the blessing and advice of His Beatitude Elias II, this style of embroidery was revived in Georgia. As a result of diligent work, we mastered the technology of these embroideries, and today we can perform all kinds of intricate embroidery.
For the nearest future, Elguja Mamasakhlisi plans to expand his enterprise. In case the Ministry of Economy assists the enterprise within the framework of the project Made in Georgia, the company will launch production of bulletproof vests and hire about 100 additional employees.
I plan to set up 2 new enterprises. One will be located in Tbilisi, the other in the region. Actually, we lack the laborers. I set up an enterprise in the region. The effort proved to be successful.
Elguja Mamasakhlisi opened one more sewing enterprise in Lanchkhuti, region of Guria of West Georgia, where local labor is employed. Later, he plans to expand the enterprise in Lanchkhuti. And finally, former Prime Minister and well-known billionaire Bidzina Ivanishvili intends to become a TV journalist. By the end of this year, his new television program will appear on television screens. Bidzina Ivanishvili confirmed this information after he finished the presentation of the upcoming projects of his NGO Mokalake, the Citizen in translation. Mokalake launched 2 projects entitled Students for Self-Government and Olympiad of Civil Education. Senior high school students can participate in the Olympiad. Registration of students interested in participation in the contest is scheduled to begin on October 7 and end on October the 31st. According to Bidzina Ivanishvili, almost 1 million lari will be spent on each project. Former Premier and current founder of Mokalake did not forget to mention the much advertised project of retraining the journalists. In his words, the project failed due to the lack of interest on the part of the representatives of media.
We are preparing a TV project. I cannot talk about its details because at this stage we are still in the process of its elaboration. However, we are actively engaged in the work. It will be launched not later than by the New Year's Eve.
According to the Prime Minister, the 2 projects publicized at the presentation aim to fully engage the young people in the process of governing the state, which is a solid prerequisite for the country's success. Well, that's all this morning. You are watching the weekly business news in English on TV3 on the Georgian television. Thank you very much for being with us. I am Nugzar Rukhadze. I will see you again next Saturday morning at exactly 11 a.m. right here on TV3. Until then, have a beautiful week.